Test, test. Alright. So here we are in From the Depths. On the left here we have my battleship. It's a little cluttered, not my prettiest design by any means, but the hull is cool. It's curvy. It's got lots of systems. It mainly focuses on its guns, as you can see. A lot of modern day battleships are more about missiles and the like. But here in From the Depths, we're true men of culture, and so of course we use big guns. Here we have our AP frag, and then we've got some, well, it's rail assisted AP frag. If you look at the shell speed in this pop-up, you'll see it goes at about 1300 meters per second, but at a rate of one shot every 3 seconds basically. And this one isn't rail assisted, so you can see that the shell is noticeably slower, but the fire rate is also higher. This is because down in this turret well, down in this turret well, there's a lot more ammo down here to feed into the gun, so it can reload faster, it can shoot faster. But the thing is, it's slower, the shells are slower, but it uses a different shell type. It uses this thing called Hesh, and that basically is another kind of armor penetrating shell that doesn't really rely on going fast to deal damage. On the side here we've got a motley crew of diff flak. What that means is they're just really slow firing guns that probably will only shoot once, maybe twice a fight, but they're made to shoot down enemy shells or enemy missiles. See, like, for example, this cram shell that we've shot at the enemy. This is a big boy. It can deal damage. It can deal big damage, but if you shoot it down before it hits you, well then it goes poof. It doesn't do anything. Since it's so big, it's really easy for the enemy to detect from far away, and so it's easier to shoot down. It's also slower. It goes at a maximum speed of 300 meters per second, which is much slower than 700 or 1300. We've got more AP frag over here, and these are our cram turrets. They're just little guys, very cheap. They shoot a big shell. They add a lot of DPS for like very little cost, so why not just include them here? And if you disable a craft systems, I mean, they really speed up the process of taking them out. Here we've got some anti-air countermeasures. This is like a pack gun. Basically, if like there's a plane, it's going to be running on an AI, and this pack will shoot an EMP shot at it, fry its AI, and then bye-bye plane. We've got some missile interceptors here and here to shoot down enemy missiles and cram shells that are like slow and shit. And over here we've got some more pack guns, but these are set to pierce, so they'll do damage to our big boy over here. Anyway, the fight has already started, and we've paused right now just so I can yap and shit. But anyway, this is the tier. It's not a very fair fight with our ship. Our ship, my big boy, is much more expensive, about 1.6 million mats, and this, which is like FTD bucks. And this guy, the tier, very, very strong design, is 1 million FTD bucks. So since it's such a big gap, I've added in some support here for the same faction. This guy also has some cool guns. If you take a while to appreciate these designs that the designers of this game made, like these ships come with the game. They're in the built-in files. It just looks so good. Like, it's not even just the railing or the paint or the camo or the superstructure design. Everything is just really nice. There's a lot of deco work here, so like they're using blocks that don't actually do anything, but they just make it look pretty over here. But it's really cool. Anyway, these guys have basically just cannon armaments. We can see in the... Wait. What? It's not... it's not showing me their firepower. Okay, whatever. Anyway, we've got some cannons, we've got some missile interceptors. Cool beans. I don't really know much about this Strelson besides that. Oh, it looks like it's got a bunch of... Ooh. Oh, wow. They've got some heat missiles back here. Basically, what that means is this is a remote-guided heat missile. So the computer on board tells them where to go instead of the middle being self-guided, and it's got this tip on it that tells you that, oh, once it makes contact, it detonates its heat charge. So instead of dealing damage to the surface of the craft, it tries to bypass the first layer of armor and do more damage with it. So that's neat. We've also got some radar, like some decoy missiles back here. When you see this big bulge thing, that's like a decoy. It's meant to make other missiles by the enemy go like off course and shoot at the missile instead. Anyway, the tier is a big scary thing. It's got 3 cannons that are all the same, and they shoot in sync. They're railguns, and they shoot shells. They shoot like AP frag and AP heat with at a huge speed with a huge amount of kinetic damage. And we can see their volley over here. Anyway, whenever we face off against a tier, it's always super scary just because of how devastating this first initial volley can be. Anyway, we're gonna unpause and watch it fight a little bit. That's enough of me yapping. If you'll notice, both craft have anti-munitions countermeasures. But it looks like this shell will actually strike. Very cool. Usually I don't expect those cramps to hit. They get knocked out by the enemy Sea Whiz. I forgot to mention, we've got this big laser boy. They shoot lasers, but like they're not doing so right now. It's because they're waiting to recharge. But a huge portion of the craft is actually dedicated to just supporting this laser system. If you'll look here in the performance figure, we've got some missile firepower, some cannon firepower, some cram firepower, and oh, it looks like they're taking out our lasers. Unfortunate. Looks like the tier just shot us in the belly. Yep. And so I've got a huge amount of armor here, but it just doesn't matter because the tier is terrifying. It does crazy damage with each volley. And it doesn't really matter if you have a very strong LAM system or not. It will get through. It will get through. That big, massive volley will get through. So here I've got functionally... I've got multiple air gaps. 1, 2, 3 air gaps. And 2 layers of heavy armor, as well as a bunch of alloy in some angles. But it's just not enough. Anyway, you can see in the top of the screen, it says degraded mode. That's because, you know, there's just too much going on. These are big ships, and it's really intense on the system. So, kind of struggles. Alright, let's take a look. Our ship is at 95%, the tier is at 95%, the Stralsund hasn't taken much damage. Honestly, that's a little better than I thought it would be going. But, you know, something to consider is that a lot of that 5% of damage we took is critical damage. We took damage to our laser, which would usually be a huge amount of damage over the course of the fight. Oh, and one of our turrets got taken out. No! You see another volley from the tier came in and penetrated through here and struck one of the the structural supports of the cannon, and so the whole thing went out. Anyway, this is one of my first designs that I think is like a little better. Like, of course, we're always improving at this game when we play it. It takes a long time to build these things. Oh, right. I've got some torpedoes as well. These are large torpedoes as opposed to small, medium, or huge. So they're a bit chunky. They go a little slower, but they do a lot of damage. You can see my turret cap just floating off. Yeah, so it's got some, yep. So these are anti-torpedo torps. Like, they're interceptor torps. You can tell by the head that, oh, that head means it does damage to other torps or other missiles or, you know, just munitions in general. And it seeks them out. The first cram we saw got through the anti-munition defense, so I wonder if this one will. Anyway, both the Tyr and the Stralsund are part of this in-game faction called the Steel Striders. They're really cool because they make very realistic looking ships. I could show you battles from a couple of different factions if I wanted, but that would take a very long time. Anyway, it looks like we've disabled one of the cannons here. Two of them are still going strong. And let's take a look at the Stralsund. Excuse me, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Yep, the Stralsund's doing just fine. Looks like they're not using rail. You can tell if it's rail assisted by if there's like a blue ring that comes along the barrel. Oh, looks like they've got a sand blaster too. It's just like a high RPM, low gauge kinetic blaster. Anyway, since the majority of our DPS is down, it looks like, besides just these two cannons, our laser and this secondary cannon is down. Our torpedoes are still up, of course. Why isn't it firing? Interesting. Is our AI off? We have an AI over... Right, in the laser section, there's an AI that governs whether that torpedo fires or not. I wanted to split them all up so that if you take out one AI, it doesn't like take out everything. But yeah, this is the laser pump cavity where I keep all the laser pump stuff. Anyway, it's super laggy, I'm sorry. Where are you? Where are you? Yeah, this is the missile AI, and it's working. What's going on? Yeah, it's online. I don't understand why it's not firing. Huh. Okay, that's something for me to troubleshoot. Maybe I just need to do that. Okay. Okay, sure. Fine. If that's all it takes to get you to fire at something, I'm happy. So at this point, the majority of our DPS is actually from our simplest system, which is these torpedoes, since the enemy isn't really targeting them. So hopefully, eventually, these will take them out, but I don't have high hopes. Though we did take out one of the Tyr's guns. Anyway, that's about everything. FTD is a game with very long, drawn-out fights, so... Especially when you get scaled up to bigger things, not only is there more stuff to destroy in each fight when things get bigger, yep. So all the torpedoes got taken out. It's just their anti-torp systems are too strong, so we can't count on that. Anyway, when things get bigger, they take longer to kill, generally, even if you have bigger guns that do more damage. And the bigger the fights are, the more the machine that's running the fight struggles. See, like, The graphics are really degraded, the frame rate has really decreased, and the overall fight just takes a lot longer. If I were to do a smaller fight, you know, the performance would be much better. These blue lasers, by the way, are my LAM system, which is like gonna take out enemy shells, enemy missiles, enemy cram that's coming in. That's basically it. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that could happen. Right now, my laser is using the 0Q laser. I don't have it set up to do that. How is it doing that? I've got my laser turret set up to use just the 1Q battery for damage, and then I've got the lamp set up to use the 0Q battery. They're separate. How's it doing that? I'm so confused. This lag is really fucking with me. It's so weird. And now it's switched back. Is it because... I think it's because as my repair bots are repairing the system, they didn't replace all the Q switches. And so for a time, the laser became operational while the Q switches were not replaced. And so the laser became 0Q. Checks out. Anyway, it looks like the tier has taken some minor damage in the meantime. It looks like this cannon is offline, so it's basically only got one cannon firing. That's really encouraging. Yep, it's only got one cannon online. Stralsund still appears to be doing fine for itself. Of course, I've got my AI set up to target the bigger boy first, the bigger, scarier boy with more firepower. But eventually it should switch to the Stralsund once the tier doesn't have a lot that can threaten it anymore. Alright, so here we have these missiles coming in. Hopefully my anti-missile systems can take them out before they come in. Oh, one gets stopped, two get stopped, and the rest connect. That's crazy. That's crazy. Alright, how did my armor do though? Did anything penetrate? Does not look like anything penetrated. That's really good. We've got an air gap in here with an alloy skin and then heavy armor poles beneath. And those poles are rounded so they kind of count as an air gap unless you hit it in just the right spot. So those heat shells, you know, everyone knows that heat functions by like injecting a stream of copper, molten copper, through the armor plate to come out the other side. Well, if you have an air gap between the armor plate and the rest of the internals, that stream of copper is going to come out in the air gap and scatter. And so you can mitigate the damage that way. It won't continue to penetrate through your entire armor scheme if you have air gaps in your armor. So that's why it's good to do that, just to have air gaps everywhere. Anyway, the tier really isn't so much of a threat now, so I'm surprised that it's still being targeted. But I suppose the Stralsund isn't doing much either. Let's tag along for one of these strips by these cannons. I'm gonna pause next time it fires, and we'll watch what the shells do. So let's take a look at these shells. Oh. It looks like armor piercing. Actually, I'm not really sure what these are. What the heck? What the heck? It's difficult to tell what these are for me. I'm not familiar. Anyway, it looks like it could be APHE, but it looks pretty weak, honestly. Okay. Whoopsie. Let's try again. I'm trying to catch when oh, there it is. So the Stralsund's main cannon's impacted around here. Oh wow. Something came over here and took out one of the cram turrets. Anyway, it looks like this was a little shredded beforehand. The Stralsund's main cannon's impacted around here. But they're not too scary. Like, I mean, they did damage, they did stuff, but it's not as scary as the Tyr's guns. Like, this is the Tyr's last remaining gun. Whenever it hits, pokes a hole straight through everything. As you can see, there's like this little hole that goes all the way through. Where is the hole? Almost went all the way through. Okay, cool. My armor did something this time. Anyway, this video is getting really long, so I mean, you've probably clicked off by now, because I am not editing this thing. This is not for views. It's just a thing I'm doing. Anyway, let's give the computer time to breathe. If we open up our options, we can see that I'm on low graphics. Simple graphics. The game could look a lot nicer, but I mean, I like doing big fights with big things, so. What is this? Oh, this is an Onyx Watchcraft. Yeah, I don't know why I've got that in my crafts list. This is another thing I made. Oh, right, this is a really simple submarine I built. It just uses a bunch of pack turrets. It goes underwater. And basically, if you can't hit it, okay, cool, it'll eventually whittle you down with all this pack stuff. It doesn't really do that well for its cost, but that's pack for you. It's a really expensive weapon, and it always hits. You can't stop it from hitting. And it does decent damage, but like, it's really expensive. So it's not very cost effective. This is a little guy. A little guy. He's just 10th. Oh wow. Paint changes everything. I changed my paint scheme recently, so. He's just a little guy. He's got some hydrofoils, so he can skim across the water. He's made of mostly wood and a little bit of metal, so he's really easy to kill. He's not really made to be cool or anything, but he's kind of nice, I guess. What's something that you can take out? How about a couple of dusters? Can you take out a couple of dusters? We've got a kinetic turret here. It just shoots kinetic shells, I believe. No, it shoots frax shells. Cool. It shoots them somewhat fast, I guess. Fast enough to hit some things. Ooh, there goes one duster. These are the most basic airplane in the game by the Deepwater Guard. They're made to be the easy faction. So the designers for this faction make a bunch of stuff out of wood and really weak weapons, so that's easy to kill and it doesn't really do that much damage. And their cooler designs are basically like, oh wow, despite all these limitations, we still managed to pack quite a punch. So let's do a faction fight, actually. That's something I want to do. How much time do I have before work? We've got a little bit more time. What I really like, my favorite craft on the Deepwater Guard right now has got to be the sailfish. Yep, that's my line. Go to work, you lazy son of a bitch. Alright. So, I think this speaks for itself. This is very cool. It's got a bunch of moving parts that don't necessarily do anything, but look quite cool. That's kind of how it goes in From the Depths, which is why I have much to learn. There's so many ways that you can make your craft look really interesting, and I am still figuring that out. Like, look at all these curves, for one thing. Look at how the metal outlines the curves. Look how things are moving. Look how all the deco is set up to be super cool. Like, oh, shit. You see the deco of this propeller? Yeah, none of that is functional. All of that is purely aesthetic. And they spent probably hours doing that. It's crazy. Same for the gears here on these joints. These gears don't actually do anything. They're just for show, etc. But it all breathes life into these ships. Makes them more interesting. Anyway, in the front here, we've got a decoed flamethrower. And so a bunch of this is just for show. It doesn't really show you what's actually going on. But basically, it's two flamethrowers, if you look past the deco. And it does huge fire damage at very short range. So let's take something it might be able to destroy. Since the Deepwater Guard is considered the easiest faction, I don't really expect it to do very well. So we'll put it against the Thresher Shark, which is probably going to be really good against the Sailfish here. The Thresher Shark, if I remember correctly, has a lot of missiles. Yeah. A scary railgun and lots of missiles. And they're the kind of missile that waits until you're like really high in the sky and then they attack you from above, which is really scary against ships, because ships generally have like less deck armor. So these missiles are kind of not made to hit things that move fast, I guess, so rip. But yeah, the Sailfish just gets right up in your face. You can see it's already taken 3%. Oh wow, the Sailfish has taken 5%. That railgun is doing work. The Sailfish also has some secondary armaments. It's got some cannons over here. But I mean, those are just kind of there. If you take a look at the performance, the APS is just, I guess it's not insignificant. Oh, and that's something I didn't consider either. The Thresher Shark is more than twice, well, not more than twice, about twice the price of the Sailfish. I didn't consider that at all. That's very unfair. But actually, the Sailfish is doing quite well. It's all but defeated the Thresher. It's defeated the Thresher. Oh, wow. Well, that's why you test things in From the Depths. You never know what... Oh, wow. There's its entire cannon gone. That's why... Wow. Yeah. Flamethrowers. They will do lots of damage. Jesus. Now I want to try something else against the Sailfish, because that went very differently than I expected. The Twin Guard and the Scarlet Dawn are basically the meta factions. The players who designed for that weren't very constricted. They were allowed to go ham in a lot of ways. So the things that they make are very much broken. So if I put something out here, I expect it to just completely destroy the Sailfish. So this guy uses some cannons, looks like. Or those could be lasers, I'm not sure. Yeah, it looks like those are cannons. Oh, it's a railgun. Cool. What gauge is it? Come on. Where's your ammo? Where is your ammo? Show me. What the heck? All I'm seeing is railgun chargers. And there's no ammo clips. What the heck? What is going on? That is so strange. The APS is huge. But where's the ammo? What? What? Oh, is it up here? That is so trippy. I'm so used to things being just like, oh my god. Wait a minute. These are belt feds. So basically it shoots low gauge stuff really fast. Belt fed loaders are different from normal 1 meter loaders because they can shoot low gauge shells extremely fast, but then they have a really long reloading period versus normal 1 meter auto loaders. You know, they don't have that reloading period, but they don't shoot as fast. Alright, so I'm expecting this thing to shoot a bunch of little guys really fast and fuck up the sailfish's day because of, you know, just the sheer amount of kinetic damage with all that speed behind the railgun. I'm just checking out what this guy is made of. And then down here we should have all the engines. Yeah, we've got some steam engines, some thrusters, some more interceptors for anti-missiles. This is just a deco thing. More jets. Alright, let's get to the fight. And behind here is just going to be a bunch of useless stuff, probably. This is just something for you to shoot at. Oh, there's a cannon over here. Why is there a cannon? Why are there cannon parts there? I don't see a barrel. Does that go straight to this? Is that gun going straight to that? I'm confused. Yeah, it is. I'm goof. I am goof. Okay. Yep. Yeah, all this goes straight over here. Goes down, and then goes out the gun. Yep, okay. I've never considered a design like that. Maybe I should. The thing is, you have to make this whole thing on a sub-object. You have to put it all on a turret, and I just have not wanted to do that because it's like a pain. Takes a lot of effort. I haven't learned to do that yet. Anyway, I am yapping. How expensive is this guy? He's the same price as a sailfish, so we'll do a 1-1. 1-on-1. Alright. Yep. High rate of fire. What kind of missiles are these? These are frag missiles. They're small frag missiles. They're APN guided, so... Yep. So you see what happened there is there's a bunch of moving parts on the sailfish. And so since some of them, if you target the moving parts, you'll probably miss. Because they're always oscillating. And since the AIs are dumb, they don't really know what parts are valuable or not necessarily. The AIs only really sort targets by like whether they're hot, whether there's a bunch of blocks there, and whether the craft as a whole has like a bunch of firepower or a bunch of armor, or they're moving and stuff like that. So the AIs don't really know that they shouldn't be targeting the wings, they should be targeting the center of mass. It's kind of bugging out for some reason, I don't know. Anyway, it looks like they're evenly matched. The Hysteria isn't able to stay out of range, and so it's taking huge damage from the flamethrower over here. Oh, has a sailfish disabled something? These guns aren't shooting anymore. Are the belt feds reloading or something? I guess so. How strange. Perhaps the hysteria is worse than I thought it would be. I didn't want to throw it against something truly strong because I knew the sailfish would just get obliterated, but you know, maybe we should up the ante. The hysteria is just gone. Let's see if these frags do anything. Oh, they're going for the wings! They're going for the wings! Oh, you fools! You fools! Ah. That is so cool. The Deepwater Guard, designed to be fallible, designed to be weak, designed to use stupid weapons that can do almost nothing except for in very specific circumstances, have won the day against the Twin Guard, who do cheaty things in order to win by any means necessary. This flamethrower, it only works at short range. It does damage over time. If you use fire-resistant materials, it greatly reduces the effect of it, which the hysteria is doing, to be fair. This sailfish is using a bunch of wood in its armor, which is really bad because it's an extremely weak armor. I shouldn't have to explain that really, but everything else about it really works. It gets up in your face really reliably. It has a bunch of moving parts, and if you shoot at them, you're basically doing nothing. It's just genius. Anyway, let's try another fight because I need to see the sailfish die. So I don't want to make it too unfair. So I want to find something that's similar in price. I haven't seen the Harpia fight anything, so I don't know how good it is. We might have to do 2 sailfish against something more expensive if the Harpia doesn't do anything. Ooh, it's got some packs. It's got some packs going on here. And it's got plasma guns. Plasma guns is a really good meta gun against meta craft because the more armored you are, the more stacked and the more heavy your armor is, the more damage it's going to deal. Unfortunately for the Harpia, that is not what the sailfish is. Its heaviest armor is metal, which is very standard, and it has a bunch of wood in there, so I don't expect this to be a very effective fight for the Harpia unless it can stay completely out of range. It does have a very fast top speed of 126 meters per second. And it is keeping its distance rather nicely. The sailfish is closing, though, slowly. So I think this comes down to whether the sailfish can close the distance before critical damage is incurred. Let's check out these shells. What are these shells? They're really slow. Oh, it's Hesh. It's slow Hesh. So that's an armor-piercing shell. So it doesn't need to be slow. The only reason to make a shell faster if you're not trying to deal kinetic damage is because you want to hit the target. The faster a shell goes, the more likely it is to hit the target because it takes less time to get there, and they're less likely to have moved or changed direction. As you can see, the Harpia is kind of going in a sine wave where it's going up and down as well as backwards and to the side. So that makes it much harder to hit for a slow shell because the AI struggles to predict where it's going to be in the next couple of seconds. It doesn't really, the AI isn't complex enough to account for sine waves. It just does straight lines and stuff like that. It's a linear detection. I've tried to make detections that recognize sine waves, but really it's very difficult. Arnat, a guy on the Discord, discussed it with me briefly, and I quickly realized I was out of my depth. It's not a simple process. The solution that most people and I go for is just get closer, use hit scan like laser or pack, or just make shells that are very, very fast. Yeah. Looks like the Harpia is going to win. Just very slowly over time because the Harpia... Oh, wow. Look at all that confetti. That's what plasma will do when it hits a dense chunk of armor. Yeah, it just blew off its face. Now, even if the sailfish got into range, it wouldn't be able to do anything because those flamethrowers are just offline. That's so unfortunate. Anyway, I I think I'm gonna call it there. Thanks so much for watching. If you indeed still are, and have a nice day.